Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast via the Field of 68. It's been about 2 weeks or so since we've been on this podcast, and Jackson and I have been kind of enjoying our spring a little bit here, but we finally have some news, some more off-season movement for the Jayhawks. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Episode 72 of The Hum coming right up next. All right, Bez, on the last episode, we were here discussing how the team is finally coming together, how Darren Peterson finally has some friends. Flory back in the fold, Jaden Dawson, Trey White ended up committing. And now Kansas has another commit, and Melvin Council Jr. from St. Bonaventure, a guard. Jackson, what were just your first thoughts whenever you heard Melvin Council Jr. was Jayhawk?
I was pumped up, man. He is such a it's I want to say feisty, but that means that would refer to like a 5'9", 5'10" little guard. This guy is just he's kind of dominant in terms of athleticism. I mean, he just gets after it. I watched a couple St. Bonaventure games this past year. Can't say I watched watched 10 or 15, but I did peep for a couple, and it's hard not to notice him when he's out there, man. He does a lot of different things, and he can handle the ball, which I think is kind of why this gets exciting. Is you know I'm okay with DP taking a lot of shots. You can't rely on him for 35 games, 35 minutes a night as the primary ball handler the entire time. Then nobody can do that. You have to have somebody else that can spell you. And Council is one of those guys that can, in terms of pace, in terms of what kind of he brings to the table, he's not going to take guys one on one like Darren Peterson's going to be able to do. But he can absolutely bring the ball up and he can handle it. He can play off the ball too with Peterson. There's a lot of things that you can go to with him, but quite frankly, I think he's going to defend and he's going to defend his butt off, and Kansas fans are going to fall in love with him.
The thing that really just, screams at me with Melvin Council is all the dog stuff, right? If you're not a dog, then you're dog food,
Love it.
all of that sort of stuff that Melvin Council has kind of been saying. I mean, you have to love it. You absolutely have to love it. And I feel like Kansas as a whole, like kind of the theme of this offseason has been just getting dogs. Like no more of the AJ Stores of the world, the Rylan Griffins, who might be some of the flashy names in the portal. Let's go out and get some Atlantic 10 dogs.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Let's do it. And we're doing it. That's the second mid-major dog that Kansas has picked up, which wasn't even in the realm of possibility last year. You get Zeke Mayo, your mid-major guy. Love Zeke. He's not really a dog though. And he's definitely not going to defend as well as Council's about to defend. I mean, he's going to take the other team's best perimeter guy every single time he's on the floor. And that's such a valuable cushion to fall back on as a coach. Like if he checks in, he might not give me what I'm looking for offensively, but I've got a guy out there who can, and I know that he's going to want to guard, not just guard. He wants it. Council's one of those guys who he'll look at the schedule and he'll circle different top range perimeter guys, throughout the conference. That's a matchup I'm looking forward to. And then he's going to check into the game and he's going to take every ounce of pride he has into guarding that man and to shutting him down. And that's kind of a Bill Self trope. You think back, Marcus Garrett was the best at this. Marcus Garrett, not until his senior year was he even really called upon offensively. But it didn't matter because he wanted to guard the other team's best player every time he stepped out there. And I think Council is going to bring a very, very similar mentality to this team.
Yeah, I think the Marcus Garrett comparison is a pretty good one for Melvin Council. I mean, very similar length, athleticism, everything there. This is what Bill Self said about Melvin Council. He said, "We're very excited to announce he is signed. He's a 6'4" long, rangy guard that can play with the ball and without the ball. Melvin will remind our fans physically and athletically of Tyshawn Taylor." Bill Self.
Mm,
He's a superior athlete who can score the ball and has the potential to be one of the more elite defenders that we've had in recent memory. He's been very well drilled and well coached at Monroe College, Wagner College, and St. Bonaventure. We cannot be more excited to have him in the fold. Council, he actually started his career at the JUCO level. Played with Monroe College for 2 seasons. Then he transferred to Wagner for the 2023-24 season. He was first team all conference there. And this is kind of an interesting tidbit. Wagner ended up making the NCAA tournament that season. In the first four versus Harvard or versus Howard, Council became the first player since assists became official to record 20 plus points, 5 plus rebounds, 5 plus assists while shooting over 50% from the field and playing all 40 minutes and committing no fouls. I mean, that's a lot. That's a mouthful there. But Melvin Council has done that. Then he goes to the Atlantic 10, was all conference third team there with St. Bonaventure, top 15 in scoring, top five in assists, number two in steals per game in the Atlantic 10 conference. This is just a great ad for Kansas. Don't know exactly, if he'll be right beside Darren Peterson in the starting lineup. We'll talk about this a little bit later. If we'll slide to the bench, kind of what the situation will be there. But this is a guy that Kansas needed bad, I think, just to kind of fill out this roster a little bit.
Totally. And what sticks out to me about the numbers you just read off, the assists, the guy can share the ball, and there's going to be times where you get a little whiff of this past season, where at the beginning it felt like Kansas had too many guys. Griffin or Storr was not going to get the minutes they probably deserved or that we thought they deserved coming into the season. And there will be times this year where there's already a couple really, really good ball handlers on this team that could be the starting point guard at a bunch of different, lower level, I'd say, Power Five schools, though. And with Peterson there, that's just not going to be the case for them. But I think at the same time, you touched on it earlier. These guys can share the ball and they want to defend. And we're not going to have a situation like we had last year where the guys that Kansas brought in, they're kind of only effective if they're open to shoot the ball and at the same time kind of struggled to get their own shot in the Big 12. These guys aren't going to have that issue, because that's not A, what they're going to be called upon to do. And B, if they're not able to showcase what they think they can offensively, they're not wired to be like, give me the ball type guys. They'll say, fine, I know how to stay on the floor, and that's going to be to defend my butt off. And I think the defensive metrics that we were so skeptical about KU last year, I truly do think this is kind of shaping up to be a top five defense. Flory's a real rim protector that's going to be playing 30 plus a night if he stays out of foul trouble. Every single guy Kansas has brought in has a defensive nature to, their profile, and that's why Kansas is bringing him in. So get excited for Council. The dog stuff is not fake with him. He truly is wired like that, truly believes it. I think it's going to be great.
He's a New Yorker too, so
It's
he,
real.
it's in him. It's in him.
Damn.
Uh, to close with Council, this is what he said to 24/7 Sports about coming to Kansas. He said, I like the atmosphere and to go to the next level. You have to play against players at the highest level. You have to prove yourself against players who are the same or better than you. Also, Bill Self is a Hall of Fame coach. So why not play for a Hall of Fame guy during my last year of college? He also said, as a player, I'm not going to back down from anything, no level of competition. I don't care if you are ranked, don't care what type of player you are. Supposed to be, you're going to have to bring it against me off the court. I'm just a lovable, kind, respectable human being. Melvin Council Jr., folks. Very, very excited. Very excited.
Good. Glad he touched on that last part.
All right. Now it's time to talk about the next biggest piece of information here today, and that's Tyran Stokes. If you're not aware, Kansas hosted the number one overall prospect in the 2026 class this past weekend. Bez, before we kind of get into everything about this recruitment, let's kind of discuss what kind of player is Tyran Stokes. Both of us have seen him play. You've seen him play probably a little bit longer ago than I have, but
Yes.
just what type of player is he? What is Kansas getting in this guy?
When
And
I was watching him, man, it's the dunks, and you talk about it with Peterson when you were just watching him recently. Holy cow. This guy rocks the rim and he's really, really bouncy. Like some of the dunks he had, and this is, high school circuit. So there's some pretty impressive athletes, some pretty good dunkers. The sheer power that he's able to elevate and throw down with is it's hard not to notice. He is just he's like takes it in angry type of guy, like no when he's downhill, you just get out of the way. You're gonna get put on a poster. You're not taking a charge. He'll jump over you. You're not gonna cut him off. He'll run over you. Like he's just such a monster. And since then, he's definitely rounded out the other parts of his games. Ball handling, I thought he was good, when I saw him. And he was big back then too. So like he wasn't bringing the ball up or anything, but he could handle the ball. You could tell. You're like, okay, this guy's not going to get pickpocketed or anything. But I mean, I think the shooting has gotten better and better each year he's played. And if he does reclass, which is what a lot of people are saying, if he commits to Kansas and does reclass, I think he's one of the best players you can put alongside a Darren Peterson type. Just truly. I mean, he he's you can call him a rim runner, but he's kind of a wing. He's not really a big. He's a rim running wing. Sheesh. Rim running wing who
say that three times fast, Bez.
I'm good on that one. I don't think I'm gonna do that, but this guy just gets out and goes, and Peterson's gonna be able to find him in spots that he just wasn't able to in high school. Stokes is gonna get the ball right at the rim so many times, and he's faster than he's so big and fast and bouncy and just super fun to watch. He plays with a tenacity. He dunks on you. He will absolutely let you know what he did, and he will remind you of it throughout the entirety of the game. I just think you pair him with Peterson, you potentially have two of the best athletes in the country running the floor together with Flory Budunga. Like the possibilities would be endless. And I think that kind of does sheer Kansas away from the we're going to be a sniper, we're going to shoot a ton of threes, blah, blah, blah. They'll still be able to do that, but the transition possibilities with Peterson and Stokes is like old school Tyshawn T-Rob type stuff for the Jayhawks that I personally am very, very hopeful and excited about.
Stokes is like 6'7", 240.
That's
Like
a crazy build, and it's
huge.
like 240, no body fat.
Like he's huge, guys. Like
Boom.
he's a big boy. Stokes to me, obviously the big news was he's not playing AU basketball anymore. I was able to break that, but you know, last summer on the EYBL circuit, obviously he's playing up. He was easily a top 3 to 5 player on the EYBL circuit last summer. Like I tried to do the experiment yesterday. Okay, Dybansta probably above him last year on the circuit. Cam Boozer probably definitely above him on the circuit last year. I don't honestly I couldn't tell you another person who was above Tyran Stokes and in terms of production, just wow factor. I think he was really number 3 on the EYBL circuit last year, playing a year up. So now he's not playing AU basketball. And whenever I first heard that,
Right.
the first thing that comes to mind is okay, well, he's going to college next year. I mean, why even Jeremiah Fears, before going to Oklahoma, Jeremiah Fears played a whole summer of EYBL basketball with Indy Heat.
And
So
right.
it's just interesting timing. You don't play summer, and now you're visiting a school during the heart of portal season. Kansas trying to build a roster for next year. I think Tyron Stokes ends up reclassing. Now, I will say the family and kind of his team has been very, very persistent that there's no chance that Tyron Stokes reclasses. But Bez, I mean, I've been through this with you before. People just they love to lie.
They just do it.
Like until it's one of those things where, he's not reclassing until all of a sudden he does. You know? And if he does end up reclassing, I think Kansas is probably going to be the front runner. Stokes is from Louisville. Louisville's his hometown. He's visited Louisville, but Louisville has spent a ton of money on their roster for next season. They got Michael Brown, top, 10 recruit coming in, three really good guards from the portal coming in. They have a European prospect in Frew. Like Louisville's for the amount of dollars that a Tyran Stokes type of player commands, which is probably like 2.5 to 4 million dollars. I don't think Louisville necessarily has that right now. I think Kansas could fork it up for Stokes. So I don't know. The reclass is the biggest question. Uh, for me, if Stokes does reclass, I guess the only argument I would have for not is, if you go against, Dybansta, Peterson, Boozer, Ament, all these guys for next year's draft, you could be, maybe a top 10 pick if you play well. If he stays in 2026 and plays well, I think there's no doubt he's the number one pick. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's all about getting to that second NBA contract as fast as you can, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. I feel like it's pretty up in the air whether Stokes ends up reclassing or not. I think it'll come down to just fit. Like, what does it make sense for him to go early, uh, make some money? But I'll tell you this, if you want to go to the NBA, if you want eyes on you all season long, why not come play with Darren Peterson?
Seriously. I mean, there will be no shortage of scouts at any Kansas game all season. And this whole, it almost makes you think that Self has known about this for a while now. Because you mentioned the NIL thing with Louisville. I think that's a great point. And Kansas, outside of Peterson, and we don't know what they ended up giving Flory. It was obviously much more than whatever he had last year. But so that's a price tag. And then you have Peterson. But, Kansas isn't paying 1.5, 2 mil for Melvin Council or Trey
I,
White
I would
or
hope I would hope not, Bez.
right. That's what I'm saying. So why else is Bill Self outside of, let's change the culture, let's get dogs, all that good stuff? Or I can go out, get really quality players for a way cheaper deal than some of these other guys while saving up this money because I've been talking to Stokes' family for the past 3 months, and this whole reclass thing has been floating around their heads. I'm going to save up a little bit so when he's ready to actually make that decision, I can throw in whatever he wants. Because fit wise for Kansas, it almost makes too much sense. It's one of those things that sounds too good to be true, honestly. He is that type of an impact player, and I think he's a top 10 pick, whatever draft class he decides to go in. And nowadays, I think kids care a little bit less about the number one, the number two, the number three. You already hit it, Sam. That second NBA contract has never been more expensive than it is right now. And so that's why the Cooper Flag stuff was so hilarious to me. I'm like, when he's 23 years old, he's the contract that he's going to get 4 years from now. NBA salaries are just going out of control, and that's not stopping. Cooper Flag is probably going to have the highest paid contract in NBA history by the time he signs his extension, if he's as good as we think he's going to be in the NBA. Stokes, why not move that up a year earlier? It's honestly making more and more sense for him to do that. But like you said, maybe he does want to be the first overall pick. And if he doesn't reclassify, he pretty much has that stamped. So I get it both ways. But I think Self has just been working this and has been constructing the team. I'm not going to get any stars, quote unquote. I'm going to get a ton of role players who will love Kansas, who will love to guard. And I'm going to save up for this Stokes guy who it's kind of quiet right now, but when the time comes and he's ready to announce, he's not going to be able to say no to us at that point. He's just not.
I hope so, Bez. I really hope so. I think if Stokes stays in 2026, I think Louisville ends up grabbing him. I think he plays for Louisville next season. But I think if Stokes ends up as a 2025, Kansas has it under
I
wraps.
agree.
I think Kansas has this. Uh, I think Kansas ends up doing it. I think Kansas ends up pulling it off. It's almost like you said, it's almost too perfect for Kansas not to grab this guy. Have two, I mean, honestly, three, if you count Flory, just bona fide like NBA guys. And I've already seen the meme floating around of Darren Peterson face over Dwayne Wade, Tyran Stokes face over LeBron, and Flory face over Chris Bosh.
Like, it's funny you mentioned that because I don't know who else to compare Stokes to than like a super, super, super Walmart diet light LeBron. They have the same build. Like Stokes, that athleticism and that just power, that's kind of what it reminds me of. I'm not calling Tyron Stokes one of the GOATs, by the way. Like, please don't take this the wrong way, but that's the kind of style that he plays. And like I can see it. I can see that meme being a very real thing. And I just oh my gosh. The only thing I'm now concerned about is Kansas might get preseason number one once again, which is just the
No,
ultimate voodoo curse in Lawrence.
no way. No way, Bez.
But I mean, that gives you the number one player in back-to-back recruiting classes in a current climate where everybody is at self's head. Oh, he can't do it in NIL portal. He can't do it in this era. It's super easy or it's way harder when everyone can pay recruits, right? Blah 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 blah. Okay, fine. I just have the best players in the next two classes on my team right now. So, wonder how you all feel about that. Love you, Bill.
Would be electric. Would be electric. All right, y'all. Back at the under four here, we will be talking about where Kansas's roster stands, what it would look like with Stokes in there, and then just kind of, a general what we're thinking for Kansas to fill out the rest of the roster. See you at the under four.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast via the Field of 68. We are here at the under four, giving a little updated roster look. I think as things stand right now, Bez, no additions added in there whatsoever. It's Darren Peterson at the point guard. I think Melvin Council and Jaden Dawson at that 2-3. And then you got Trey White and Flory. That is kind of looking like the starting five as we stand right now. Then you got Elmarco Jackson, Jamari McDowell, Bryson Tiller, and Samus Calderon off the bench. Just looking at this team, Bez, the two things that I think Kansas needs is scoring on the wing, Tyran Stokes, uh, and then probably a backup big would be kind of the two things that Kansas needs. So what do you kind of think, Bez? If we slate Tyran Stokes into this lineup,
Oh, oh.
what do you think happens? Does Dawson go to the bench? Does Trey White go to the bench? What are you thinking?
I think Trey White starts regardless. I think he's going to be a great glue guy for Bill. Has already played, high level Big Ten basketball, won a tournament game. I think Bill's going to roll with him just off of experience. I think either Dawson or Council gets moved to the bench. I would probably lean Dawson just because I think the defensive aspect of Council is too good to pass up, and it can immediately from the tip relieve Peterson of any type of extra stress he's going to have to deal with, and he can just go out and be DP. Then you slide Stokes into that three, maybe four. Trey Wright's not really a three though. So that kind of goes back to my previous point.
Stokes can play the three easily. He's
Yeah,
mobile enough. Yeah.
that's not exactly a elite 3-point shooting lineup you're rolling out there, which I think just it's going to make some fans cringe a little bit.
Stokes can knock him down though, I will
I
say.
know Stokes can knock him down, but he's not going to be 37, 38%, I don't think, on 5 attempts a game, like I think a lot of people are wanting.
Yeah.
But dude, I keep looking at these way too early top 30, way too early top 25, all this different stuff. Nobody's mentioned Bryson Tiller at all in any of these projections. I maybe am too high on him. I said this last episode, I think. He's going to matter for Kansas. He's going to have a way bigger role than, say, like Marquise Passmore did last year. And he's a true four, true forward that can come off the bench and really, really score and really, really guard, a 6'8", 6'9", kind of bulky, classic Big 12 big. He's going to be able to guard those guys. And he's going to be able to put the ball in the basket. I know he's hurt. I mean, he might be a little better now. I don't really know. But he's been with Kansas now for a few months. He's already been in the whole thing. He's going to be one of the most experienced players as a freshman when boot camp comes around just because this roster is almost entirely new and he's already been here for a little bit. I just think he's going to matter a lot more than people think. And I think the only thing that you already touched on that they really need from the portal is a backup five.
Well, maybe Bez, maybe that's what Tiller is.
Maybe
Maybe that's what we're overlooking. I mean, 6'10" with a 7'3" wingspan, Bryson Tiller.
he can
I'm pretty
score.
sure that would be taller than Flory and about this, like wingspan's probably a little shorter than Flory, but maybe Tiller is just the backup big. Maybe we're messing up thinking that he's anything else, and that because I don't think Kansas is really in contact with any potential backup bigs out of the portal.
Yeah.
The only other guy that I know of that Kansas is kind of really going after is that Coward guy from Washington State. Uh, but I know that a lot of other schools are kind of after Cedric Coward. So. I don't know, man. I think maybe Tiller is just that guy. Maybe he's the backup big, and I wouldn't be upset with that. Kansas would be playing pretty athletic basketball, just kind of running up and down the court with that being the case. So,
No, totally, man. I obviously wouldn't be upset about it. I just talked about how much I like the kid. And I think what it does is because what I'm kind of thinking of as a backup big, like Flory he's not undersized, but he is kind of short for a five man. Not that 6'9" is anything to scoff at, but I'm just kind of thinking get a 7-footer to roll out there for 8 to 10 minutes, maybe block a couple shots, just kind of be a presence while Flory's resting or has 2 fouls or anything like that. But if you put Tiller in that spot instead of some slow, big 7-footer, Kansas does not have to change the way they play at all. And you know what else is open when Bryson Tiller's in instead of Flory? That top of the key trail three that we've been watching Hunter Dickinson take for the last 2 years. Tiller's going to be a little bit more effective than that, I think. And that's going to be a real thing that, Flory's out. Dang, that sucks. Well, let's roll Tiller at the five. Now we have shooters all over the place. And the only thing you're really going to lose is that rim protection, which, I don't know what Tiller's like as a rim protector yet. Maybe he's awesome. That 7'3" wingspan's certainly going to help. So I think that can look really, really interesting. And you're kind of just running not exactly small ball, but you're able to move and fly around with every type of lineup you can kind of think of if you just say, all right, our 2 5s are Flory and Tiller, and we're just going to be between 6'5" and 6'10" at every position we roll out there. And that's kind of exciting. Aside from Jamari. Love you, Jamari.
all right, Dream Team, the last Dream Team here. I think we're gonna have to do because the Dream Team's gonna come together by the time the next episode comes out. So, Darren Peterson,
Okay.
Melvin Council, Tyran Stokes, Trey White, Flory, 1 through 5. And that would be what, 6'5", 6'6", 6'4" for Council, Stokes 6'7", White 6'7", 6'9" for Flory. Like big, pretty big team,
Long.
defensive, long, defensive minded. Really, really nice top five. And then Jaden Dawson, Elmarco Jackson, backup guards. Bryson Tiller, backup big man. And then Jamari McDowell, kind of being your backup wing. I'm not.
Or
I don't.
Calderon.
I
Or
don't hate it.
Calderon. I could kind of see Calderon getting the Rakis treatment on this roster the way it's shaking up, but I don't know, man. I just feel like I watched enough of Jamari, and I don't know for his archetype if he's ever going to really develop as much as probably Self is hoping. But we got to see these guys. We haven't seen those actually 90% of our bench haven't seen play in a year. Tiller and Calderon are freshmen. Tiller was just hurt. Elmarco sat out the whole year with an injury, and Jamari redshirted. So we just kind of got to see it. But I think if you, like you said, go for another wing in the portal, I don't think anybody would hate that at all.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. That is all we have for you guys today here on the Hum. We will be back whenever the next big news rolls around. We'll be back to talk about it. So thank you guys for sticking with us this offseason. I'm off to Arizona, Bez, this week to watch first session of EYBL. I'm excited.
Dude, same.
Really.
I'll be in Phoenix all weekend. Sorry, that's our
Link.
first stop.
Let's link, Bez.
Thanks, Sam. Let's do it.
All right, y'all.